Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum viewers. Muhammad Nazim with the 33rd lecture. Today I'll be starting with you a series of lectures on how to write specific business letters. We've already gone through the exercise of planning an organization, and also in my last lecture I told you a bit about the essential and the non-essential parts of writing a letter. I have already focused on the application of effective writing in business setup, but it reminds me of a German philosopher who once said, "Write as you would speak, and then your letter will be good." I don't know whether he meant by the business writing or not, but it applies to all sorts of writings. Whether you write a personal private letter or a business letter, one thing is important, and I did emphasize a number of times during my previous lectures, that you must learn to write the way you communicate. It should be conversational writing, so that you develop a rapport with the audience, with your reader, and the reader understands that you are communicating with his or her frame of mind, attitude, with his or her focus in your mind. So, starting with this premise that you have to learn to write in a way as you are conversing, we must keep in mind while writing business letters that your writing should be clear, focused, concise, and at the same time courteous. If I take you back to my 30th lecture and the 31st lecture, I did focus, especially when I was talking to you about the organization of the message. I'm not talking about the planning, because that will take a long time. To recap, slightly touching upon a couple of the things which I would like you to remember before I start talking to you about the direct request letters that I mentioned to you, that when you write letters where you do not need a lot of persuasion, lot of motivation, and if it's not a negative writing, if it is not conveying or communicating a bad news, then you straight away go to your direct main point. So keep in mind that today when I'll be talking to you about direct request letters, what I mentioned to you in my organizing part, especially with direct approach to letter writing, I'm going to focus that entirely. Because writing direct letters, direct request letters, would involve letters about inquiring about a product, about a person, claim letters, invitation letters, and so on and so forth. I'll be giving you specimens and will be spending some time particularly on how to write each of these letters. But keep in mind, in all these letters, you must not forget that your approach is going to be direct. When I say direct approach, I mean you will be starting your letter with main point straight away. You don't need any buffer, you don't need any introduction, but the main message is straight away. All the letters which we'll be talking about today would be with this thing in mind, that you have to have a fast start. Remember, in the 31st lecture, I spent a lot of time on how to have a good opening, how to make a good closing, courteous closing, and I did mention to you, and I did tell you lots of guidelines, both for the closing and for the opening. So I believe when I talk to you today about these letters, you already have in mind, you already have freshened up those things which I dealt with you in the lecture, especially the 30th and 31st. Today, when I talk to you about writing routine letters, keep in mind that these letters you will be coming across during your professional life. All these letters would be mainly written for sharing information, routine information, sometimes seeking information, and sometimes sharing, that is asking for certain action, asking for certain information you want your colleague or your client to provide to you. Since in these letters there's no persuasion, there's no motivation, so straight, direct approach is the best approach. And when you'll be writing these letters, keep in mind that the strategy for your routine request letters would be the same. Opening means fast opening, a body where you'd be giving the explanation of what you mentioned in your introductory, the first paragraph or the opening, and then a courteous close. In all these letters, I would like to re-emphasize that these letters, you must be sure, you must be confident, you must have one thing in mind. Information you are sharing need not be a lot of information, only appropriate to the reader. You must be very careful choosing the right words, courteous words, and not to indulge in a lot of information which might be superfluous and bury the main information or the request you are making to your reader. So, starting with the first point, that is, how should you be making an opening? Let me tell you that you have to start with your request up front. In all these letters, start with your request straight away. Keep your direct approach. But while you are doing that direct approach, that doesn't mean that you have to be abrupt or you don't need to be discourteous. So keep in mind that you have to pay attention to your tone. How do you write? How do you construct your sentence? Even if when you are straightforward, when you are putting your request bluntly, it has to be done very tactfully. Supposing you are asking for receiving a catalog of some products, you don't have to say, send me your catalog number such and such. This would be discourteous. How can you tone it down? How can you make it more polite? You'll have to soften it with words like, please, I would appreciate. So when I mean that you have to be abrupt, keep in mind, soften down your language, soften down your tone. That is one thing very important you have to keep in mind. While you are abrupt, you don't have to be discourteous. Second point in the opening is that you must assume that your audience will comply with your request. Normally we have a tendency to be very impatient. We think that we are making a request and the reader will take his or her time, and you want immediate reply. Look, in business dealings, since while you are making a request, you are promoting business, and so there it's obvious that if you have put your message across in the right way, then you will receive a quick response. So keep in mind that you do not have to word your sentences in a way that you presume. आपके ज़हन में ये presumption नहीं होनी चाहिए कि मैंने अपनी writing में इतना forcefully लिखना है कि मुझे बहुत जल्दी है. Tone it down and keep in mind that your request will be complied at the earliest possible time. So that's another focus you have to keep in mind while you are constructing your request letter. Third thing, for a beginning paragraph or the beginning statement, avoid beginning with personal introductions. मैं आगे आज आपको एक दो एग्जाम्पल्स ऐसी दिखाऊंगा राइटिंग में जहां you might tend to start your business letter by introducing yourself. What my position is, what am I doing, why do I need such and such information. This is not desirable. Like, for example, if I say, I am the senior corporate writer in the corporate relations department, or say of XYZ. I am looking for such and such thing. To start your opening paragraph with such an introduction is not desirable. Because when I say that you have to straight away go to the main point, such an opening would be redundant, would not be desired. So keep in mind that आपने जब भी request letter करना है तो to the point, straight away going to your main message, to your main objective. Another thing for the beginning paragraph is that you must punctuate questions in such a way that if the questions are polite requests, then you don't have to put a question mark. हम अक्सर ये गलती करते हैं कि अगर हम अपने रिक्वेस्ट को क्वेश्चन फॉर्म में देते हैं तो हम समझते हैं कि हर क्वेश्चन फॉर्म में जो सेंटेंस है उसके पीछे क्वेश्चन मार्क होना चाहिए. सपोजिंग इफ आई से would you please help us determine whether Mr. So-and-so is a suitable applicant for this position? Tell me, would you put a question mark after this sentence? No. Since this is a courteous question, would you please, हालांकि ये क्वेश्चन फॉर्म में है, इसके बाद पोजीशन के बाद you'll put a full stop and not a question mark. This is for the sake of आपकी राइटिंग को इंप्रूव करने के लिए, बिकॉज आई टोल्ड यू अर्लियर कि ये आपके प्रोफेशनलिज्म रिफ्लेक्ट करेगा. हाउ आर यू राइटिंग, हाउ आर यू कंस्ट्रक्टिंग योर सेंटेंस. तो कीप इन माइंड वेन एवर योर क्वेश्चन इज इन अ वेरी पोलाइट फॉर्म, देन यू हैव टू पुट इट डिफरेंटली. इसी क्वेश्चन को अगर मैं डायरेक्ट फॉर्म में दूं, देन इट विल रिक्वायर अ क्वेश्चन मार्क. से डिड मिस्टर सो एंड सो डेमोन्स्ट्रेट एन एबिलिटी टू वर्क स्मूथली विद क्लाइंट्स, यहां क्वेश्चन मार्क आएगा. तो रिमेंबर, आप जब भी ओपनिंग में क्वेश्चन मार्क से स्टार्ट करें तो इफ इट इज इन अ पोलाइट फॉर्म, जस्ट पीरियड वुड, फुल स्टॉप वुड बी अनफ. लास्ट पॉइंट फॉर द ओपनिंग इज दैट यू हैव टू बी स्पेसिफिक. When I say that you have to be specific, that is in a request form. When you are making a request letter की formation में, you have to be very specific. If you are writing a letter to a government agency requesting them to provide you some information, कोई statistical data आपने मांगा है, आपको अपनी study के लिए required है, तो you have to be specific. Whether that information which you require, the data you require, should be on 1-page data or 10 pages data, right? Because when I said to you earlier कि आपका business letter तभी immediately उसके ऊपर response होगा if your letter itself pretty clear and you have put your requirement, your desire, your interest very clearly with the interest or with the level, academic level of the reader in mind. So आपने जहां कहीं आपने लेटर भेजा है उसको अगर आप clearly elucidate कर दें कि I just need 2-page information on such and such thing, then it's be very specific and could be immediately responded. Now, having done that, once you have put your main point, you have started your letter with your main message in the opening paragraph. Now, मैंने आपको कहा कि आपका जो main body है उसके अंदर you are going to spend couple of, it could be 1 paragraph, it could be 2 paragraphs, but you will have to dilate on what you have already mentioned in the beginning of your letter. So you must explain and now justify your request. ये आपने अगले पैराग्राफ में करना है. और इसकी एक्सप्लेनेशन के लिए you have to keep couple of things in mind. One, ask the important question first. आपने जब अपनी रिक्वेस्ट पहले पैराग्राफ में दे दी है, then you must certainly, if you could put your request and followed by explanation, if you could put it into questions, it will be very clear for the reader. और वो जो सीक्वेंस आपने एक्सप्लेनेशन की है उसमें भी आपने you have to keep in mind the order. Remember मैंने लास्ट 31st लेक्चर में आपको कहा था कि order of the topics or subtopics क्या होगा. And now, see, I'm framing my letter according to what I have already discussed earlier. So, you have to ask the important question first. एक सेकेंड पैराग्राफ में जहां आपने इंट्रोडक्शन के बाद दूसरा पैराग्राफ लिखो, उसमें आपने इंपॉर्टेंट क्वेश्चन सबसे पहले पूछ. और इफ द कॉस्ट फैक्टर इज द इंपॉर्टेंट फैक्टर, देन यू मस्ट आस्क हाउ मच इज इट गोइंग टू कॉस्ट यू. और फिर देन यू कैन talk about the reliability, functionality, the other aspects of. But if the cost is important to you, ask the cost question first and then followed by other questions. So, इसमें आपने भी अपनी प्रायोरिटी को मद्देनजर रखना. अब मेन बॉडी के अंदर एक और एस्पेक्ट भी आपने देखना है. यू मस्ट आस्क ओनली रेलेवेंट क्वेश्चंस. दैट इज द क्वेश्चंस विच आर रिलेटेड टू द इंट्रोडक्टरी पैराग्राफ, इंट्रोडक्टरी सेंटेंस. आपने उसके अंदर यूनिटी और कोहेजन रखनी है आपने सारे लेटर के अंदर. व्हेन आई टॉक अबाउट द रेलेवेंस, आई मीन वेदर यू वांट इंफॉर्मेशन which you have put, as I said to you just now, कि questions में आपने information मांगी है. तो if you simply want the answers to be in yes or no, तो फिर उसी तरीके से आप अपने questions को frame करें और आगे leave a blank space या leave a block जिसमें yes or no वो tick कर दें. Or otherwise, you could ask an open-ended question or a closed-ended question. अगर आप ये कहेंगे, if you ask a question, would it be possible to send within the next 2 days? The answer could be yes and no. Or this is a closed-ended question. But if you want to know exactly how quickly you can receive it, then of course, how quickly can you ship this merchandise? This is an open-ended question. So it is up to you कि आपने yes or no में information मांगनी है या आपने detailed information. Or you have to frame your questions. You have to tailor your questions according to what you are looking for. Also, in the main body, में आपने एक और point ज़हन में रखना है, that you have to deal with only one topic per question. अब चूंकि आपने number of questions पूछने हैं regarding what you have already introduced in your first paragraph, तो हर एक question should be able to deal with one particular aspect. If you have got more than one topic, then you must allocate as many paragraphs for the different questions you ask. Now, having done that, comes the closing part. That now you must request specific action in a courteous close. अब जब आपने अपनी इस रिक्वेस्ट को क्लोजिंग पैराग्राफ से सम अप करना है, तो कीप इन माइंड ऑल दोज एस्पेक्ट्स विच आई मेंशन टू यू इन माय 31st lecture, I suppose. Courteous close and also action oriented message. What do you want your reader to do? And also how to reach you. Supposing if you are asking for an interview, then you are asking your reader to grant you time so that you could meet him or her. And then important aspect is how to reach you through fax, through phone, through telephone. So these things have to be clearly mentioned so that in a request for, message, in a request letter, the reader could take immediate prompt action. Let me show you an example. Please send the figures by September 10 so that I can return first quarter results to you before the October 10 conference. Here, as you will find that there's a specific request, there's information, and also that is you can further end it by an appreciation or goodwill. You have clearly mentioned that you want to receive the figures by certain dates, September 10, and then you would likewise follow it up by the report which you want to be published or out circulated before. So यहाँ importance of the request clearly evident. एक और चीज़ before I pass to the next subject, that is, I told you earlier that never thank in advance. This is a very old style कि हम thanking you for, in anticipation, no need. This is, you do not have to thank the reader in advance. If it is needed, you might like or you might write a special letter, but don't end by a thanking note. आइए अब straight away हम जाते हैं, and I'll be talking to you about direct inquiry letters. Ab now, direct inquiry letters can be of two types: requesting information about products or services. आपको information चाहिए, आपने photocopy खरीदना है, आपने कोई कैमरा खरीदना है, आपने कंप्यूटर खरीदना है, या रिजर्वेशन कहीं करानी है, आपने कहीं visit पे जाना है, you want to know what are the places worth visiting, etc., etc. So you could write a letter for either asking for the information about the product or the services. Second type of information is requesting information about a person. While you'll be hiring people, you would like to know about the person. कैसे काम करता रहा है, उसकी work habits क्या हैं, personality कैसी है, उसके traits क्या हैं. तो जहाँ कहीं previous काम किया उस बंदे ने, तो you would like to seek information. So when you are in a business setup, you will be dealing with these two types of letters. Let us take these one by one and go into detail and find out what is the appropriate way of handling either seeking information for the products or the services, and individually I'll be talking to you about seeking information about a person. First, talking about the products, the services. Whenever you want to know the information about a product, you must keep in mind the goal before you prepare the inquiry letter. Because if you are clear about what you are really looking for, तो आप अपने inquiry letter के अंदर वो सारे questions डाल देंगे और वो सारी information डाल देंगे जिसके बारे में आप जवाब चाहते हैं. And constructing that letter, putting the right information will help the reader to provide you the appropriate answer or the information. If somehow you fail to put the information in the right perspective, the reader might not understand your mind. उसको नहीं पता चलेगा, because you might have asked for some very general information. Of course, will be misinterpreted, or the reader will not be able to understand आपको specific information क्या चाहिए. So therefore, to make response easy, you need not to be concerned about motivating, rather just putting the information in a way that there is sufficient clear message for the reader to answer. For such things, you have to begin with the request rather than with the explanatory note. Often, जैसे मैंने अभी थोड़ी देर पहले आपको कहा था कि you do not need writing about yourself, what is your position and what are you looking for. This is explanatory material. When I say that you have to go to the point, to the main subject, I mean straight away what you want. If you place the request after the explanatory material, it would be a slow start. And you might be embedding the main information in the later part, or maybe the reader misses that information. Therefore, आप inquiry letters के अंदर आपको straight away to the point, आपको जो information चाहिए वो मांगनी पड़ेगी. Let me give you an example. Supposing you're seeking information for a product. स्क्रीन पे देखिए मैंने आपको एक एग्जाम्पल दी है. look, and I would like you to assess yourself कि क्या ये appropriate writing है. It goes something like this. I am thinking of purchasing a new printer for my ABC personal computer. This printer would primarily be used when I'm using the computer as a word processor. I use the electronic word processing software package. देखिए information इसमें बहुत है. Will all of the F1080 printer, it's a fictitious number, functions be operational when using my computer system and word processing system? This is how I have introduced my message. I'm seeking information, और मेरा main message क्या है? Will all of the F1080 printer functions be operational when using my computer system? This is the main message. ये information मुझे चाहिए. But this is a wrong start. This is a slow start opening. क्योंकि मैंने पहले और information दे दी और जो actually information मुझे चाहिए वो मैंने आखिर में. अब आइए इसको हम change करते हैं. I will be putting it something like this. Will all of the F1080 printer functions be operational when using the electronic word processing software on an ABC personal computer system? अब ये देखिए, this is a fast opening. Whosoever reads it knows what I am looking forward. Then later on would go for further explanations. When I talk to you about fast opening, this is what I was talking to you about. मैंने आपको अभी थोड़ी देर पहले जब मैंने स्ट्रक्चर के बारे में बताया तो I mentioned to you that you need not go into details, rather straight away the main message, main question. This is how you should be structuring your introduction, because a person is looking for a product and it has straight away put the right question, and then what this person would be doing, having put the question in the first paragraph into the introduction, would be later on dilating इसको और details में deal करेगा to give more information so that the reader could know exactly what he or she, mean the one who has asked for the information, is looking for. Let's look at the example. Somebody seeking services. My wife, son and I am planning to travel to Ayubia this summer. While in this area, we want to do several things, including horse riding, hiking, and bird watching. Could you please send me information about the hiking trails as well as information about the places best suited for the other activities? देखिए, आपको as a matter of fact ये बहुत चीज अपील करेगी कि yes, you have started with basic information and then ask the question, but in effective business writing, this is not a good way. This is not an effective way. You'll have to change your thinking pattern. Go straight away to the main question. So this is not an appropriate, this is not an effective way of writing. मैं आपको इसलिए example show कर रहा हूं क्योंकि since you are a beginner, you might think, yes, this is the right way. कि आप अपनी बीवी के साथ जाना चाहते हैं, ये एक्टिविटीज करना चाहते हैं, and then what is that you want? No, straight away. आइए अब हम इसको convert करते हैं in an effective writing methodology. हमारी क्या होगी? Question. Straight away going to the question. Could you please send me information about the following facilities in the vicinity of Ayubia? Trails for half-day hiking trips, horse riding, and bird watching activities. You can even put the various things you want to do in the question forms. आगे आने वाली examples में मैं आपको दिखाऊंगा कि we can even ask them particular questions, specific questions, जो कि reader के लिए भी आसान होगा. So remember, fast opening के अंदर आपने question straight away करना है, but as I said to you earlier, polite way, courteous way. So आपको जहन में ये बात रखनी है कि आपने बेस नहीं बनानी. You do not have to bother about creating a setting and then ask a question straight away, because I have been telling you off and on again that in business correspondence, people do not have time. They want to have a quick grasp of the content of your letter, and this is the only way. Straight away go to the main question and then dilate. Uske upar further facilitate the reader with the number of questions you want to be answered. Now, when I say to you that you have to ask a number of questions after you have made the introduction, क्योंकि आपने जो main आपका subject है उसके बारे में आपने further कुछ और queries करनी है. How to put the questions? Which question should you be asking in the direct inquiry letter? Occasionally, when you are requesting information about a product or services, you might be having several questions because you want to know a lot of information about the product you want to buy. और जैसे अभी कहा कि अयूबिया जाना चाहती है अमली, so they want to know the various activities they can do while they are over there. So इन questions को आपने कैसे prioritize करना है? The most important question is usually asked first. याद रहे जैसे मैंने आपको कहा था कि cost का अगर question important है तो वो पहले आना चाहिए और less important questions should follow. आइए example देखते हैं. Could you please send me information about a photocopier that has the following features? अब ये एक fast opening way है, fast opening paragraph. अब इसके अंदर मैंने जैसे मैंने कहा था कि how am I going to sequence my questions? पहला question, a heavy duty photocopier which could print 10,000 copies per minute. ये मेरी top priority because I want to have a fast printing photocopier. ये मेरा important question है, लिहाजा मैंने इसको number 1 priority दी. Second question, an inbuilt program to sort out and staple each document. I want to have a photocopier जो कि automatically staple भी करे और उसको sort out भी करे. My third question, remote control functions भी उसके अंदर. My fourth question, dual purpose function of a computer, printer and a photocopier. My last question, quick and easy repair and replacement. अब देखिए मैंने फास्ट ओपनिंग के बाद मैंने अपने क्वेश्चंस को किस तरीके से प्रायोरिटाइज किया है. एंड मे बी द प्रोडक्ट विच माय रिसीवर perhaps be introducing to me might not have all the functions. लेकिन उसको ये पता लग जाएगा कि मैं 10,000 photocopies per minute चाहता हूं. So he or she would understand that anything less than that would not be sellable to me. And then later on, according to the priority, would look for the extra functions and will suggest to me the various options available. After the request is presented in the opening letter, then we have to put in the explanatory material in the later part, as I said to you. Okay, questions के बाद you have to explain further what actually you are looking for. So this includes the reason for the request or information that the recipient will find useful in preparing the response. अगर हम ये questions इस format में, इस sequence में ना डालें, तो मेरा receiver perhaps would not be able to understand what I am looking forward to, or might indulge in further correspondence या delaying supplying me the information जो मुझे चाहिए. अब देखिए कि मैंने opening paragraph डाल दिया है, questions डाल दिए हैं. अब मैंने explanation कैसे देता हूं? Look at the screen. We intend using this facility for conferences which are held almost every 2 months. On the average, the total number of participants vary between 800 to 1000. अब ये paragraph मैंने questions के बाद अपनी inquiry letter में डाला. क्या it gives an added information to the receiver? Surely yes. This contains the explanation, why do I need all those functions? मुझे high speed photocopier क्यों चाहिए? Obviously, the receiver of my letter would not send me the information about any product because this is what my requirement. तो लिहाजा जब भी आप कभी इंक्वायरी लेटर लिखें, उसके अंदर आप क्वेश्चंस डालने के बाद must have a separate explanatory note so that it could be evident on the receiver why do you need such a product. Then, how to have a courteous ending. देखिए मैं आपको अब एग्जाम्पल दे रहा हूं, all that why I said to you couple of minutes ago कि आपने अपने इंक्वायरी लेटर को इस तरीके से स्ट्रक्चर करना. Courteous close के अंदर स्क्रीन पे देखिए, I have formulated a closing paragraph. A quick response to my request will enable us to decide soon as to which photocopier best meets our needs. If there are any additional features than those mentioned above, which you think might be helpful, please feel free to suggest. देखिए, this is a courteous, action-oriented close. I suppose now you understand that आपने जो भी अपने लेटर्स को फॉर्मुलेट करना है, उनको ये सारे स्टेप्स को याद रखना है और इनको एक खास सीक्वेंस के साथ फॉलो करना है. Remember, writing, as I said to you earlier, is not an easy task. इसके लिए आपको, जैसे मैंने कहा ना, प्लानिंग के साथ साथ अपने आप को ऑर्गेनाइज करना पड़ेगा. थॉट्स को इन प्रैक्टिस. You must keep in mind, as I said to you, what is a slow start, what is a fast opening, और उसके बाद the various questions which should substantiate the main question which you have put in the beginning, and then explanatory note and a courteous. आइए मैं आपको अब गाइडलाइन, एक suggested plan इसी का, what I have already talked to you just now, so that you should follow these, and once you start practicing, you will be able to effectively construct an inquiry letter which should fit in with all these stages. Pehla, an opening that contains the primary request and secondary request. Primary request क्या थी कि मुझे 10,000 की चाहिए, और उसके बाद आपने questions. Okay? You started with the question that you want a photocopier, and then especially first question, and then primary and secondary आपकी request. Second, an explanation that includes the reasons for requests or provides additional helpful background information, क्योंकि आपने कॉन्फ्रेंस में इस्तेमाल करनी है, बिकॉज आपकी कॉन्फ्रेंसेस में फॉरेनर्स आते हैं. यू वांट प्रॉम्प्ट मटेरियल टू बी डिस्ट्रीब्यूटेड. दैट इज द रीजन. एंड थर्ड, लास्टली, a closing that suggests the action you wish the recipient to take, and that expresses appreciation for assistance. If you follow these three guiding principles, I'm quite sure you will be successfully making or formulating effective inquiry letters. आइए, अभी मैंने आपको प्रोडक्ट की इंफॉर्मेशन के बारे में बात की, सर्विसेज के बारे में बात की. लेट्स टॉक अबाउट इंफॉर्मेशन अबाउट अ पर्सन. बिजनेस सेटिंग्स में surely you'll at one stage or the other you'll be coming across a situation where you might have to hire people, and when such a stage comes, you would like to know the appropriateness, the skills, the extra abilities and traits of a person. उसके लिए often we like to know the past experience, और उसके लिए हम we often send letters to the previous employers to know कि इस बंदे की का stay इस organization में कैसा. When you would like to frame a letter for inquiry about a person, then you must keep two things in mind. One, that you must keep in mind the respect for the rights of a person. That is, when you're making an inquiry about a person, then you should not deviate from the basic rights of a person. अभी मैं थोड़ी देर के बाद आपको इसके ऊपर डायलेट करूंगा कि व्हाई इज दिस मोर इंपॉर्टेंट. एंड सेकेंड एस्पेक्ट which is important while you are inquiring about a person is that you need to structure your questions around the job involved. Understand? When I am talking about pehla question I'm going to take, when I'm talking about the respect of the human rights, I mean both legal and moral rights. मैं जब किसी बंदे के बारे में कोई इंक्वायरी कर रहा हूं कि वो बंदा कैसा है, then morality demands I should only be inquiring about the person which is not a reflection of my biasness. याद रहे मैंने आपको कुछ चीजें पहले बताई थी. एज बायस के बारे में बताया था, जेंडर बायस के बारे में बताया था, मैंने रेशियल और एथनिक बायस के बारे में बताया था. तो कीप इन माइंड, whenever you'll be asking information about a person, don't inquire about these things. ये किस फेथ से बिलोंग करता है, ये इसका एटीट्यूड क्या है, मजहब के बारे में, बिलीफ्स के बारे में, बैकग्राउंड क्या है, कौन सी बरादरी से. These are not the questions. They are not. You see, because the reason why I'm emphasizing the importance, globalization हो रही. You might by some accident indulge in asking for such a thing which might put your company in a very precarious condition. So whenever you put some information in black and white, ऐसी information कभी मत मांगे, क्योंकि it's the basic right of a person, irrespective of color, creed, caste, religion, has the equal opportunity to compete for a position you have asked for. Second चीज जो मैंने आपको कही, ask only for information related to the job. The reason being that you may say that you need knowing the background of a person, but you are more concerned about the ability, about the competence of a person regarding the job. Focus your questions more on the capability, competence, कि वो उस फील्ड के अंदर वो उस बंदे की पास कंट्रीब्यूशन जहां भी उसने पहले काम किया क्या है. इसके बारे में मैं फर्दर आपको बताऊंगा, बट फॉर द टाइम बीइंग जस्ट क्वेश्चंस जो भी आप पूछें should be related to the job and not to his or her personal background. Third, stress fact, जो भी facts हैं उनको उन पे stress करें and write for business use, and when authorized तभी आप ये information मांगे. Ask only something which is factual, or after you have sought the permission of the applicant. अगर applicant आपको allow नहीं करता ये information लेने के लिए, you have got no right to ask, and you should not be indulging in asking information from the previous employer. तो लिहाजा after you have been authorized, only then you should go in for such an information. And mind it, after you have got the information, treat it confidential. Confidentiality जो है, that's important, because this is only for your business consumption and not to be provided to somebody else outside your company or organization. So keep in mind, we are going to see how the information we are going to seek about a person who has applied for a job, और हम यही चीजें ज़हन में रखकर फोकस करेंगे. When you have considered these requirements, or let's see how do you plan and organize your inquiry. You must begin directly. जैसे पिछले आपने प्रोडक्ट और सर्विसेज में डायरेक्टली क्वेश्चन किया था, यहां भी asking about a person you must begin directly with either a general question or a specific question. Specific, I mean, if you say कि मैंने ऑफिस मैनेजर के लिए इस बंदे को कंसिडर कर रहा हूं, तो what do you think, वगैरह वगैरह. So particular question should be tailored for the specific position you are considering that person. Then second is explain the situation. किस सिचुएशन में आप उस बंदे को हायर करना चाहते, उस बंदे की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज क्या होंगी, वो कहां काम करेगा, क्या क्या एक्सपेक्टेशंस उससे हैं आप सिचुएशन भी आपने एक्सप्लेन करनी, बिकॉज सो दैट द वन हु इज प्रोवाइडिंग यू द इंफॉर्मेशन should know that this is the situation this person is going to work in, and then he or she will give you the evaluation of that person. Third aspect which you have to keep in mind while writing an inquiry letter about a person is that you cover the additional questions systematically. That is, make certain that they cover the work which is involved, and also that it is going to protect the subject's right. What I mean is that you must mention that the person you are inquiring about will be doing a certain type of a job, whether he or she can do that or not. That's what you have to ask for as well. And then of course ending with goodwill talk, because आपने किससे information request की. Now, applying these instructions, let's take an example, a hypothetical. Let's say a hypothetical person, Mr. Aslam, has applied for a job of an office manager. I advertised and he applied, and I have received an application from him from the position. So having analyzed the CV or the application, and also the job requirement, that this Mr. Aslam has got this background, और job requirement में ये चीज़ें involve हैं. अब मैंने job situation भी analyze कर लिए और Mr. Aslam का data भी वो analyze. What questions should I be asking? I have formulated 4 questions. पहला question मेरा ये होगा, is Mr. Aslam capable of handling the responsibilities involved? अब मैंने straight away उसके previous employer से पूछ रहा हूँ how I'm going to introduce that, but this is one question I have got in mind. I need information whether this person is capable of handling the responsibilities which are involved in being an office manager. Second is, does he know the work? ये question है मेरे ज़हन में. तीसरा, how hard a worker he is. चौथा question, is he morally responsible? क्योंकि I know the situation, because he would be involved in a situation जहाँ उसके पास बहुत सारा कंपनी की इंफॉर्मेशन और दूसरा दो चीज़ें होंगी. I need to know his moral values. That is, honest है कि नहीं. Now, how would you arrange the questions and the necessary explanation in a message? ये जो 4 questions हैं मैंने ज़हन में रखी. आइए मैं आपको एक लेटर जो कि मैंने इनिशियली फ्रेम किया मैं पढ़ाता हूँ, एंड देन आई विल सीक योर ओपिनियन कि इज दिस द राइट वे ऑफ राइटिंग एन इंक्वायरी लेटर अबाउट अ पर्सन. स्क्रीन पे देखिए. सब्जेक्ट है मिस्टर असलम. मिस्टर असलम हैज अप्लाइड टू अस फॉर एम्प्लॉयमेंट एंड हैज गिवन योर नेम एज अ रेफरी. ही इंडिकेटेड दैट ही वर्क अंडर योर सुपरविजन during the period 2001-2004. This is my introduction, opening paragraph. मैंने कहा था कि you need some explanatory material. Second paragraph देखिए. We would be most appreciative if you would give us your evaluation of Mr. Aslam. We are especially interested in his ability to handle responsibility, knowledge of office procedures, work habits and morals. मैंने क्वेश्चंस भी डाल दिए इसके अंदर, जो मुझे इंफॉर्मेशन चाहिए वो भी मैंने उनसे पूछ ली. और माय क्लोजिंग सेंटेंसेस, थैंकिंग यू इन एडवांस फॉर योर कर्टसी. आई रिमेन व्हाटएवर. मुझे बताइए, इज दिस एन एप्रोप्रिएट लेटर? क्या वो सारी इंफॉर्मेशन जो मैंने आज के लेक्चर के शुरू में आपको बताई थी, स्टार्ट कैसा होना चाहिए, क्वेश्चंस कैसे होने चाहिए, क्लोजिंग कैसे होनी चाहिए, surely in this format I have given sufficient information. देखिए इंफॉर्मेशन दी है और क्वेश्चंस भी हैं. Is this an appropriate letter? सोचिए और मुझे बताइए. Because I want you to be very clear what I told you earlier in my lecture, that how you have to have a faster start, how the questions should be pretty clear and help the reader frame the answers, and likewise closing should be courteous. Does it meet the requirements? No, surely not. क्यों? इसके अंदर एम्फेसिस गलत है. इस लेटर में कहीं भी मैंने ये मेंशन नहीं किया कि ऑफिस मैनेजर की पोजीशन के लिए मैं उसको कंसिडर. इस लेटर में कहीं क्वेश्चंस क्लियरली नहीं दिए गए जो कि फैसिलिटेट करें उसको रीडर को कि वो एक्सप्लेन कर सके कि is he suitable for the position or not. Although the questions appeared in the second paragraph, but the actually information was very scant. बहुत little information थी. और also एक और भी मैंने गलती की कि I thanked them in advance. This is not the right way. अगले लेक्चर में मैं आपको इसी लेटर को appropriately restructure करके दिखाऊंगा कि effective letter asking for a person's background, उसके evaluation for a job जिसके लिए उसने application दी है, कैसे effective letter. Keep in mind, but the reason why I'm leaving you here is I would like you to think over what I mentioned to you earlier in today's lecture. And maybe it could be a very good exercise for you अगर आप you on your own frame certain questions, asking explanatory details, और इंशाल्लाह in my next lecture मैं यहीं से शुरू करूंगा. Maybe I might give you just a brief introduction of this letter and then say इसको मैं इस letter को मैंने कैसे improve किया. This is the only way that you can learn to write effectively. इंशाल्लाह आगे जो और भी letters आएंगे इसी तरीके से मैं आपको letters की effectivity के बारे में बताऊंगा. But what is more important is your personal exercise. You must do your homework and work on your own. What I am telling you is theoretical. You need to undergo the practical experience. And I am quite hopeful. Inshallah, when I meet you next, इस letter को आपने detail काम किया होगा और फिर we will go further from there. Thank you very much. खुदा हाफ़िज़.